The Lenovo Legion 9i is the most insane laptop I've ever used. Not only is it fast, but it's also super extra in the good ways, like having a water cooling loop, a dedicated AI chip, and even swappable ceramic keycaps. But it's also one of the most expensive gaming laptops out there, so what does the money really get you? Lenovo sent this over to me, but I'm free to say anything I want. The one that I have has a 4090, a 13980HX, and 64 gigs of RAM. But what makes it really special is the overall package and the level of performance it's able to deliver while still being relatively light and compact, starting at only 2.5 kilograms and around 20 millimeters thick. This device is definitely super premium. The top of the laptop is made from forged carbon fiber, which they say helps to reduce the weight over using aluminum. But I think aesthetically it looks super cool. This pattern shifts in the light, and actually, due to the way that it's made, every single design is unique. And the rest of the chassis is this matte, soft touch material. It feels great, but I do find that it does show more fingerprints than other materials. In general, the build is super solid and the keyboard deck doesn't flex at all. And the keyboard is actually my favorite part of the build. It's probably the best laptop keyboard I've ever used. It feels very tactile and responsive with 1.5 millimeter of travel. The keycaps also have a slight 0.3 millimeter ditch, which actually feels pretty good. And they also included 8 ceramic keycaps that you can swap to. There are 4 white ones and 4 colorful ones, and they feel cool to the touch. If you use the arrow or the WASD keys a lot, then swapping to these could help make sure that they don't look beat up over time. And these even come in a case that magnetically closes, which is very extra, but I appreciate the attention to detail. There are also 16 replacement springs for the keys, which I think is a really underrated feature because I've definitely had laptop keyboards break on me before. So being able to swap it out yourself can definitely save a lot of trouble, and they also included a tool to do it. Another feature that I came to appreciate is the port selection and their location. Most of the ports are on the back, which really frees up the room on the sides of the laptop to use a mouse, and it also helps make the setup look cleaner because all the cables can be out of sight in the back. But there are still a few ports on the side that you can conveniently access, which includes a USB-C, a USB-A, a headphone jack, and an SD card slot. There's also an e-shutter button to turn off the webcam and audio. And on the back, there are indicators for the ports which can light up to help identify them. There are 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, a USB-A port, an Ethernet port, an HDMI 2.1 port, and a power port which supports 330 watt fast charge. They do provide this 330 watt power brick, but also a 140 watt USB-C adapter, which feels kind of extra, but it's actually pretty useful. In some situations, you can just bring this smaller brick and it'll also be able to charge just about everything else. So you can travel with a lighter package. But just know that this smaller adapter won't allow this laptop to reach its full performance. When you do plug it into the big brick, the 4090 and 13980HX can draw a ton of power, and it does perform extremely well. And for something that's relatively thin, it actually does a pretty good job at cooling these power-hungry parts. In the Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is already a very heavy game, and with basically every setting maxed out, it's still a very smooth experience. The Legion 9i performs as you would expect for the components, but it also has an extra LA2 AI chip, which can help improve performance by basically looking at the FPS in-game and then intelligently redistributing the power between the CPU and GPU. And this can provide up to 10% more FPS in some games. And this laptop also has some pretty crazy cooling contraptions to keep these very power-hungry and hot parts cooled. There are 3 fans and heat sinks on both the back and the sides of the laptop, and they even shifted the keyboard down to let the fans draw air from the top as well. This certainly helps with thermals, but it does result in a smaller trackpad, which I think is an okay compromise because this is a gaming laptop, so you'll most likely use a mouse with it anyways. And there's actually one more thing that I've never even heard of in a laptop, which is an integrated water pump inside to keep the GPU cool. The water cooling loop is only supposed to kick in when the GPU is really hot, so I've never really heard the pump, at least not over the fan noise, which does get pretty loud when it's running at full load. And this level of performance doesn't just make it great for gaming, but all kinds of other work as well. With its RGB lights off, the Legion 9i can easily pass as a regular work laptop. I really like this all black minimal design. I've been doing all my work on it, which does include video editing. It's been extremely fast, and this display, unlike on many other gaming laptops, is actually really nice for creative work as well. This is a 16-inch 3.2K mini LED display. It's 16 by 10 and goes up to 1200 nits. It even covers 100% of the Adobe and DCI-P3 color space, so content and games look amazing on it, including HDR stuff, which also makes this great for video and photo editing. And what's even more impressive is that the screen does all of this while refreshing at 165 Hz with a 3 millisecond response time. It's not the fastest fastest refreshing screen out there, but I think games still look very smooth on this, and the trade-off is worth it for most people who aren't primarily playing competitive FPS games. Alright, and the battery in this is 99.99 watt hours, which is the max allowed on a plane. However, this laptop still doesn't last very long, and when it's unplugged, the performance does take a pretty significant hit. But it's still perfectly fine for watching some videos or attending some meetings. And it has a decent 1080p webcam in this reverse notch. It looks a little bit odd, but I'm fine with it because it does help make it easier to lift open the screen. When doing lighter tasks, this laptop can last a solid few hours. Also, when it dies, you can charge it to full in about an hour and 20 minutes with a large 330 watt brick. One other thing that really makes this laptop stand out are the RGB lights. They're really bright and saturated. There are individual lights underneath each keycap, all around the base, around the power button, which is also a fingerprint scanner, and even the back logo lights up. Usually, I don't really care for RGB lights. My own PC that I built has none, but these ones are really well done. And I like that the rest of the design is kept minimal to not clash with these lights. There's also the Lenovo Vantage software that lets you customize the lights. It's very intuitive to use, and there are lots of patterns to choose from. There's even this Aurora one in which the lights will try to match with whatever's on the screen, which can look really cohesive and cool. You can set 6 different profiles and adjust the brightness, and there are keyboard shortcuts to quickly do them. Other than that, another useful thing are the performance modes, which actually provides a tool to fine-tune the fan curve and lets you adjust all sorts of performance parameters in the custom mode, and you can even overclock the GPU. There's also a hotkey to switch between the different performance modes. But the Lenovo Vantage software also lets you set macro keys on the number pad, so even in games that don't usually use it, the number pad can still be pretty useful. The Legion 9i starts at $3,800, and my unit is around $4,500, so it might not be the best value for money when you just consider the components inside, but this mini LED screen is pretty rare and really good, and the keyboard is also fantastic. And to have all that performance in a smaller but super well-built package might just be worth it for some people. If you're interested in the Lenovo Legion 9i, you can check it out at the link down below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok for more content, and you can watch more here.